For advanced users who want to use the OpenSpending API to programmatically access the expenditure data, you can open those links just in your browser, but those links really just take you to the endpoint for that. To learn how to use the OpenSpending API, we link to some example queries on the Vulekamali data store about page on data.vulekamali.gov.za. Under OpenSpending API, you can see an example of a model query and an example of an aggregate query. And there's a link to the OpenSpending API documentation. There's quite a few different kinds of queries. There's a cubes query, which shows what datasets are available. There's a model query, which shows you the structure that's equivalent to the columns in the spreadsheet. But because the columns form a hierarchy, here you'll see the hierarchy that the different columns form together. A facts query basically gives you one row at a time in the dataset, and an aggregate query is similar to doing creating a pivot table in Excel. But the quickest way to start using the API is to visit the OpenSpending user interface and search for a dataset that you're looking for. Now, anyone can upload datasets here, so it's important to make sure that you're using the vulekamali datasets, as you can see by the author. So to continue with the example from before, we're going to open the National Estimates of Expenditure 2018 budget year. And to see the queries that the user interface is making to the API, you need to open your browser developer tools and make sure you're on the network tab. Then you can see the requests that the front end is making to the API. And we'll add a pivot table visualization. So previously we looked at the budget for higher education and training. And we can see the different programs, the expenditure budgeted for each program, and the total. So to do the same here, we need to select a different financial year from the default. So the last section lets you select filters. So we're going to show only 2018 financial year. And the departments is under vote number. That's currently the name for that dimension. And vote number is basically the ID for departments, except for some departments that are folded into other votes. So if I search for higher, I can filter there. And in our pivot table before, we had program as each row, and that's already selected by default. Program number being the name of that dimension. And the numbers look similar. 89.95 billion. 89.95 billion. Administration was 432 million. 432 million. And I'm checking here because I've already checked this pivot table against the dataset published by Treasury, the summary of this expenditure. And it's important to make sure that you're looking at the right numbers. There's another dimension called phase, and for some years there are multiple phases, so it's important to select the phase you're interested in. Are you, for example, if you're looking for budget or if you're looking for actual. Now we look in the network log to see which request was made. The last aggregate request is this one. So if I right click on it and I can say opening new tab, I'll see there are 7 cells which matches the cells I've got here, and the categories are the same, and administration is 432 million. So you can use this to start getting familiar with the with creating valid queries, and then the documentation for the API can help you tweak those to do things that perhaps the user interface can't do yet.